people along the corridor to pay for it. Here, we are asking people all over Virginia to subsidize this tax deduction for people who are being provided this benefit unique to Northern Virginia. So I just want to point out the disparity in treatment geographically, and I would just hope that there's a little bit of red reflected to show the geographic unfairness of this legislation.
For what purpose the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise?
Talk about regionalism, Mr. President.
There's the floor.
There are people who pay the Metro tax every time they buy gas, but they never ride the Metro. There are, if I'm not mistaken, you can go through our code and you can find tax credits for farmers. And by the way, Senator, there are no farms in my district, okay? You can
Mr.
go
President,
through. No,
I would ask
not
if you yield.
Absolutely not. And there are farm subsidies. And again, Senator from Northern Fairfax and I, we don't have a lot of farms in our district. And by the way, some of the taxes that we are paying where we live are so people who live in his district can get on 66 and ride with limited amount of traffic. We're paying for the rail so his citizens can ride in a lot easier and work in Northern Virginia. Maybe we ought to make that a toll road.
For what purpose is the senator from Northwestern
Mr.
Fairfax?
President, will the senior senator from Fairfax now yield for a question?
Senator, I'm going to stop right there. Other senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak, so I'm going to go to them first, and then we'll come back. For what purpose is the senator from Northwestern Fairfax? Senator Boysko, rise.
Speaking in support of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the good fortune to represent the 33rd Senate District around the Dulles Airport region, and I believe that it is the most expensive region to have to commute in, probably in the entire Commonwealth. I have constituents who have to spend upwards of $300 to $400 each month because their toll bill is that expensive. This is something that helps regular working families make do, and I strongly support this bill, and I appreciate my good friend from Southern Fairfax for bringing this bill up. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from James City County, Senator Normant, rise?
Mr. President, I rise to speak to the bill, but
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, first of all, I just would observe, even on charitable birthdays, that, I've been here for a few years, and over that period of time, the decorum and the way that the Senate conducts itself has slipped a little bit, and we don't have the adherence to protocol and at all times courtesy. And I would suggest, Mr. President, not in an admonition way, but just in an observational way, to direct a comment at a senator during the course of the argument, which is going to provoke a response, and then that individual to try to respond without being called upon probably is not adhering even liberally to the parliamentary debate. Speaking to the bill,
Senator, you directed that at me, I presume. And I'll remind the senator that you, some weeks ago, made another admonition that's directly contradictory to what you're saying right now, citing Rule 43, no member shall speak more than twice upon the same subject without leave of the Senate, nor more than once until every member choosing to speak has spoken. So we can have that discussion offline, but you cited a rule that you wanted followed. When it's followed, you now don't want it followed in discretion. So I'm going to let you continue, but I don't accept your admonition.
Mr. President, I don't expect you to admonish me on the rules of the Senate, but speaking to the bill.
And I don't expect you to admonish me either. So continue.
Mr. President, I'll remind you, you are not a member of the Senate.
I was elected by 1.36 million.
Mr. President, I'm going to speak to the bill.
Then you should. You have the floor.
Speaking to Senate Bill 277. Here is the inequity of it is I appreciate the challenges that you have with transportation in Northern Virginia, and I mean that sincerely. Myself, as an employee, I cannot deduct or get any credit whatsoever for my commuting mileage. As a matter of fact, on the tax return, I have to list the number of miles that I commute from my home to my place of business, and that is not a deductible expense to me. Now, that's a choice that I make because I don't live immediately close to my office, just as some in Northern Virginia make a decision to be employed a substantial distance from where they reside. So I would just say those of us who do not have a reimbursement from our corporate employer do not have any tax benefit whatsoever, and in fact are penalized for it.
Do any other senators wish to be heard for the first time on Senate Bill 277? Seeing none, I call on the senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, thank you. I will not ask the senior senator from Fairfax to yield. And I do want to apologize to the senior senator from Fairfax because I apparently was not provided the memo indicating that we were not allowed to rise and question the wisdom of any bill from somebody on that side of the aisle without enduring personal attacks, as I have for 2 days. And I would say that that is a most unfortunate turn of events, and I would hope that we could resume our cordial relationships with one another. My comments were not intended as a personal affront to the senior senator from Fairfax or to any member of his caucus. It was to point out the disparity in treatment that was being provided to different parts of Virginia. And while I acknowledge that there may be no farms in Fairfax County, there used to be, and last time I checked, there were a handful of grocery stores. And I am aware, some people may not be, as to where food that is sold in those grocery stores that is consumed by people all over Northern Virginia comes from. And it ain't Fairfax City. And it probably isn't Fairfax County, with the exception of the one remaining farm up there. So, Mr. President, I again would ask for a little bit of red on this bill, and it's not meant with any offense, or it wasn't intended to impugn the integrity or the intentions or the motives of the people on that side of the aisle.
The Senate will be at ease.